And we're live here on YouTube. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
Doing good, Mike. It's nice to be in the a morning when it's nice to be in a morning after having a good night of rest and not like staring at that clock wondering, man, how much longer are we going to be up for this thing?
Yeah.
But so yeah, I mean it was a good night. We went to Circa 21 last night.
Ooh,
Chicago. We saw Chicago.
Was it good?
The musical, not the music group, but yeah, it was good. They cast the show really well, and because of being Circa.
If you were going to see Chicago and you thought you were seeing the musical group, that would be a pretty far fetch to see, the cabaret stylings of
a vaudeville show, a vaudeville cabaret type show. Yeah, but we did get Chicago, the music group, a little bit because the singing waitresses and waiters, the singing wait staff, did a medley of Chicago songs for their free show. So you got a little bit of it.
Good.
So Mike, you were on the road again this weekend.
Yeah. Whew. I'm glad I'm staying home for 4th of July this year. I went down to St. Louis for the National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors, brought home some hardware.
Nice.
Got named the K-12 Director of the Year. So the director is like the AD of esports, and I do that part of the role, but it was kind of, when I talked to the people that were on the committee that chooses these, it was as much my coaching as my directing that got me this. So it was really nice to get a nice national recognition for all the work that I'm doing in esports, and it's been great. I'm humbled and honored at their choice of giving me that. I don't think I totally deserve it. I think it's the guys that around me, that the talent and just their personality that makes it possible for me to do as well, and so I'm really honored by it. So gonna go.
Right, well,
you won't see it here. This is the only time it'll be here. Otherwise, it's gonna be at work to show off when people come into the office. So.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations. I mean, I know it's great. You're humble about it, that you're recognizing the students, but I mean, just like any professional coach or like a general manager, it takes talent to assemble and mold the team to get the results that they are able to achieve, though, too. And that takes something. That takes something as well. So
yeah, I appreciate that. So, but we got a big show. We can't just focus on our accomplishments, as we have to talk about the NASCAR corner along with some football, the Bears schedule. What else we got, Rich?
Mike, we'll be talking about baseball. As the Chicago Cubs had another winning week from show to show, and College World Series finals start tonight, and we're just about done with the NBA Finals, and we have a winner in the Stanley Cup Finals. All that and more, Michael. What do we got to do first?
We got to go ahead and roll the intro! Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Before we get into any of that stuff, we got a summer poll question that we got to talk about. This last week was drive-in movies versus state and county fairs. I love both. Don't get me wrong. I have been to both. I do prefer one over the other. Rich, how did you vote?
Well, Mike, I kind of described it when we introduced what this poll was as, you know what, they're both kind of activities that sound like a good idea at the time, or you'll always find yourself saying, you know what, we should go to that. And then you never really end up going. And it was the same thing with drive-in movies. You can't start until dusk. That's sometimes like 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And also with drive-in movies, they do it as a double feature, so you get your money's worth. So it's coming down to your finding the time to go to that drive-in movie when it's two movies that you want to see, or at least one of them that you want to see. So either you leave at the intermission when they're changing over and getting the second movie ready and giving you a chance to go out and visit the snack shack again. And but really, in my old age and with where the drive-in movies are in our area, even after the first movie is done, that's really late at night.
I mean,
so I went.
Yeah.
So I went with state and county fairs, even though because just like the Mississippi Valley Fair, within walking distance from my house. Do I ever go to it? No, not really, because you got to pay to get in, you got to pay for your overpriced food, and do you really trust the rides with them being torn down, put up and torn down usually within one business day? So I went with state and county fairs. So, but would I probably go to either of these? No.
Okay, so I'm gonna push back. One,
okay.
The Bluegrass drive-in, not that far.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not. In my head, I forget about the Bluegrass drive-in.
So the Bluegrass one,
drive-in movies, I think Makokata.
The Bluegrass one, you could go to a double feature and still be home by
2 o'clock, yeah.
So, that's not bad. But and then pushback number 2, and this is a real one. Those rides get inspected more than the rides at like Adventureland.
Mm.
So most of the time, they're pretty safe because they get inspected every time they come in, and they don't always get inspected when they go out. So, but I voted for drive-in because I love movies. We have a drive-in pretty close. We've gone once. Dark. It actually gets. It's later, significantly later here when So last night I rolled in about 10:30, got home at about 10:30, and there was still the last gasp of blue sky right at dusk. So it takes. You don't start a movie until 9:30 at the earliest, so that can be a little rough. But I still like it more. And they even do a triple feature at least once a year. So
gotcha.
Your winner was Drive-In with 3 votes.
Okay.
Me, Pam Hendricks, and Danielle Hart. Rich, you only had 1 with State Fair, and you're the only one.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right.
This week's poll question, though, Rich, is?
We're going to go with the number 5 seeded Fireworks versus number 12 Camping. You can define camping in your own terms. You'll find out how I define it. So it could be going to a campsite and setting up the old tent, or campers like camper RV, or even going as far as you're renting a small cabin. However you want to define what camping means to you, and of course fireworks is self-explanatory. So that poll is already up and online, Mike. So make sure you can find the poll question over on Fans of Balls and Sticks over on Facebook, wherever you're finding, and there's a link to it in our show description here on YouTube and also in podcast land. Fireworks versus camping. Mike, do you see what's coming up next?
Is it a left turn, Rich?
It is a left-hand turn. What's after that?
It's another left-hand turn.
All right, Mike, and that's because we're going into the NASCAR Corner. The NASCAR Corner is presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, and you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Mike, where were we last week?
Last week we were at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. So that is the brothers, the Autodrome, the racetrack of the brothers Rodriguez. Which, did you watch the stuff at the beginning to tell you all about the Hermanos Rodriguez?
I didn't watch as much pre-race. I didn't watch as much of the pre-race as I thought I would.
Okay. Well, the brothers Rodriguez were 2 brothers that one started racing at 18, the other started racing shortly thereafter. They were the first Mexican-born race car drivers to race at Le Mans, to race in Formula One. They also both raced in the Indy, I believe, but they were extremely famous and it was great. And they were the biggest thing in Mexico. So
all right.
it was
so before
great.
we get to the results of the Viva Mexico 250, Mike, what do you actually think of the layout of the track and the stadium itself?
So the layout of the track, I didn't have a big opinion on. I didn't really care all that much. But that stadium, that was the coolest thing, one of the best things I've ever seen in racing in my life. Like, legitimately, a purpose-built stadium that rivals anything we have in America. Plus, the stadium itself had grandstand seating throughout most of the track. When you go to Road America, when you go to what's the one in Wisconsin that they have? Is that Road America?
That is Road America.
Okay.
You have Circuit of the Americas down in Austin.
Yeah. COTA, you go to Road America, you go to... They don't have grandstands the whole way. They have a few here and there, but they don't have... Like, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm sure you could have fit 100,000 people, maybe more, between the stadium seating and the big stadium that they had, and the stadium, like the seating in grandstands throughout the track. It was a great place. I wholeheartedly support them going there. I hope this becomes a normal track for them.
Or at least you have one of the series going there every single year, if not the Cup every year.
Yeah.
The only thing that I found kind of odd, I like the stadium bowl seating as well, but I was surprised that that's not where the start-finish line was.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at that,
but there
too.
are curves there, so
Yeah.
I can understand why they wouldn't have like in the S curves, why they wouldn't want the start-finish or the restart line there in the S curves.
Yeah.
But you would have thought that if they didn't have the S curves there, that where that cutout in the stadium is, that's where the start-finish line was. That's where the finish line was. Is you're crossing right in between the cutout in that grandstand bowl seating. That's where the finish line is at.
Can you imagine how cool that seating is? Like, when you watched, and I think a lot of, especially, I'm speaking things that are stereotypes, and I'm not trying to be rude about it, but there were not a lot of stereotypical NASCAR fans at this track. There were, however, tons of Mexican fans at the track, and it looked crazy awesome. I'm glad they were there. I now want to... This is a track I would want to go to.
Yeah, but the thing was, I think I didn't mean where they had the start-finish line, where they had grandstands or like suites or like in a golf term, the chalets, like built up around the start-finish line. There didn't seem to be too many people there in those seats. It seemed like the majority of them were in that stadium bowl seating where they were taking the final S turns before going into where the start-finish line was.
I would say I agree, but I understand why. That straightaway, that would be the most boring spot to watch the race. That 20 to 30,000 seat stadium would have been the coolest place to watch.
Yeah, I agree. But so I hope they keep going back there. I hope they keep on going back there as well. A neat track, even if that comes at the expense of dropping one of the, or putting it as a rotation with, maybe just the truck and Xfinity go there one year and the Cup goes there. The Cup and one of the lower series go there on another odd year, even if it comes at the expense of a race not going to COTA or Road America or what's the other road course? Like, no, I don't think they'd ever drop Watkins Glen or an annual date from Watkins Glen or Sonoma.
Yeah.
But one of those, if it comes at the expense of dropping one of the standard road courses, so they could rotate in Mexico every year. Mexico on the Cup Series on a rotational basis. All right, so Mike, the winner of the Viva Mexico 250 was Shane Van Gisbergen, a dominant victory as he set the next-gen era record for the margin of victory at 16.57 seconds. Previous record was 7 seconds by Kyle Larson, dominating victory. And with this victory by Shane Van Gisbergen, he went from 33rd to 9th in the playoff standings. Our drivers, Michael McDowell, my pick, finished 5th. Your pick of Ross Chastain finished 16th, giving me a 9-7 advantage going into the Poconos for the Great America Getaway 400. So, Mike, a lot of people, with this victory by Shane Van Gisbergen, a person that's still probably adjusting to racing on ovals and really is only, if we're being honest, probably is only a threat to win the race when it's on a road course. It's brought into the question of, well, does NASCAR need to go away with the whole playoff seeding and somebody like Gisbergen being in the playoffs because of a one-off road course victory? Is it worth it to have him to have a guaranteed playoff spot because he finished top 5 in all the road courses, and that's where he got a lot of his playoff points?
So I've heard a ton of this as banter in a lot of the random stuff I've been watching this year. Or I watch a lot of NASCAR stuff throughout the year, and like legitimately, there has been people asking, do we need this? And the winning you're in is nice. And if our goal is to make, if NASCAR's goal is to make winning the most important thing, then that's where we're at. The problem will become, and they still haven't had it yet, when there is 13, let's say there's 18 drivers that win races in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do?
I think with me, it's like right now, we'll get into maybe a little bit more in the playoff standings here in a couple minutes. Right now, Chase Elliott, the quote-unquote favorite NASCAR driver, he's in on points. So in your scenario, what happens if you have 18 drivers win races? Chase Elliott isn't one of them. He technically doesn't make the playoffs.
Right. And on top of it,
you have a guy like Shane Van Gisbergen, who's only a threat on road courses. So let's say, but there's not a road course in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, but even worse, Rich.
How many guys? Likely he's going to be eliminated in the first round.
But how many guys get in the playoffs?
Then it goes on points.
Right. So in that scenario, would Shane Van Gisbergen actually make the playoffs? Because if he's
you're saying if you have more drivers that make the playoff, if you have more drivers with a win,
if you have 18
there are with playoffs.
If you have 18 winners, you only have 12 spots, right? Or is it 16?
I think it's 16. It's 16.
So you have 18 winners.
What, 2 drivers don't get in?
Yeah. Now it's going to be based on points after that. Now, I would disagree. I say if winning and you're in is a thing, then let win and like no matter what. You get in no matter what if you win. And your second round is we're dropping down to 12. It doesn't matter whether or not
So your first round, you have more cuts.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, I think even in our scenario, let's say Chase Elliott is no win, but he has the most points out of the non-winner. Should the non-winner, no matter who it is, whether it's a popular driver like Chase Elliott or maybe somebody that's had consistency all year but just never got a win, should they get an automatic playoff spot?
They don't, and I don't think they should. Win and
Okay.
you're in it. I mean, right now the rule is win and you're in. That's all that matters. So why would I don't know. I think either way it doesn't work a ton, but and there's problems both ways. So kind of how I'm at with it. So with that, you said let's take a look at playoff. Oh wait, well, let's go to the Great American Getaway 400 at Pocono.
Yeah,
Rich,
the Tricky Triangle.
with the Tricky Triangle, who are you picking?
This is a tough one because I kind of want to save between the people that are really good at this track. I've either already used or I want to save them for other races this year. So I'm going to go Alex Bowman.
Okay.
From the Chevy camp, Team Hendricks.
I am going to go with Brad Keselowski.
Okay.
I think one of the things that this track does, that the people that benefit the most from this track are the more times around it. It's one of those tracks where it's not like any other track on our board at all. None of the three corners match. They all drive. It drives completely differently than any other track that we have on the circuit. And because of that, you have to have experience. And so I say go for veteran drivers, and that's why I'm going with Brad Keselowski.
Okay. And Brad Keselowski needs a good high finish, if not a win, to get into the playoffs.
Yep.
So, Mike, after this race, we will know what this in-season bracket will look like, as it'll be a bracket-style racing as a winner-take-all for the races that are on TNT. We'll explain that next week and maybe take you through who we think will win, what our bracket will be. You can also find I think it's like a bracket challenge that will be on NASCAR.com that you can sign up as well. Just the same place where you go to enter a fantasy lineup or the 36 for 36 challenge. So Mike and I will have that. Well, how it works, the bracket, and then how we're going to pick our bracket next week.
Yep. So with that, Rich, quick playoff standings. Denny Hamlin has 2 wins.
This is where they're at in the standings,
that's
not the number of wins. So our favorite drivers, Mike, your favorite driver, Denny Hamlin, is in the number 2 spot.
Yep.
My favorite driver, Ross Chastain, is in the number 10 spot. For where our playoff drivers are, for the drivers that we said would win the entire thing at the beginning of the season outside of Hamlin and Chastain, Mike, your pick of William Byron is 4th in the standings. And Christopher Bell, my pick, is number 3 in the standings.
Okay. With that, like you said, we're going to go over the bracket next week. And this has been the NASCAR Corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs on 5th Avenue in Moline or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Let's keep making left turns as we move to the dirt of the diamond for Cubs baseball. Rich, show to show, the Cubs beat the Pirates 2 games, lost 1 game to the Brewers, had a rainout with the Brewers, and then won another game against the Brewers, and then lost to the Mariners.
Yeah.
Wind,
I think 2 of those games were very heavily influenced by the wind blowing out. But you know what? You got to play the weather. The weather, sometimes the wind plays to your advantage, and you're the one that benefits more from the wind blowing out, and other times, but it can also play to the other team as well, which I think why they lost that game against the Mariners and the Brewers, because they just pushed across more runs on the board than the Cubs did.
Yep.
But close games, I thought. So they went 3-2 from show to show. So Mike, adjusting for the rainout, I said they'd win 4 games, which took it down to 3 and was correct. Mike, you said they win 5, taking it the rain out of our prediction. That took you down to 4.
Close,
still
but not
a
so
very
good.
good week.
Yeah.
Very good week, though.
Yeah. Okay, Rich.
I'll
This
take it.
week they have 2 against the Mariners, 4 against St. Louis, and 1 against Houston for 7 games. I think they're going to go 5-3 or 5-2 on the week.
Okay, I'm gonna give them a 500 week and go 3.
3 and
Oh,
4.
that's 7. Yeah, I'm gonna go 3 and 4, Mike. Seattle's good. They are. Seattle's good, so I'm gonna go. They split with the Seattle. They're gonna split those 4 games with the Cardinals. It's a division rivalry. You never know what's gonna happen.
Yep.
And that game in Houston will depend on who is on the bump on that for that Friday night game. So.
Yep. Okay. Also in baseball news, the ballots are open. Go ahead and vote for who you want in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I think currently when we were kind of looking at the standings, this was something that when I was going to be doing the show by myself, I was going to give you my ballot. But now that we're both on the air, we're going to wait and wait. We're going to wait until it is the second round of balloting when they only give you the top 3 from each position to vote on. But right now, whether they deserve to be in the All-Star game, be in the conversation as an All-Star game starter, or it's ballot stuffing, and because MLB pushes me, vote all Cubs or vote all Rockies.
Yeah.
It's not when they're pushing to get out and vote. I think the only position that the Cubs do not have a player in the top 3 in is third base and shortstop.
On the infield, yeah. And I think that might be everywhere now that you say that. I
don't think that Ian Happ is in the top 9 for the outfield.
No, but catcher, yes. Are they not putting pitchers in here?
No. The pitchers get chosen by the vote amongst the players and the managers and the media. The fans don't get a vote for pitchers. But right now, Michael Busch would be in the top 3 at first base. Nico is in the top 3 at second. The shortstop, Dansby Swanson, is the number 5, so he would not make the ballot for the second round.
Third baseman Matt Shaw is in 4th place. He would not make it either. Designated hitter Seiya Suzuki is in 3rd place, putting him in. Catcher Carson Kelly is in 2nd place. And then, Rich, how's the outfield looking?
Right now, your top 9 for the outfielder, PCA, Kyle Tucker, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers. We have 2 of the 3 in. Juan Soto of the Mets, Corbin Carroll, and Ronald Acuna Jr., Andy Pages, Fernando Tatis Jr., and James Wood. Outside of that top 9 to vote on your outfield is Ian Happ at the 11th spot.
Which very easily could get a lot of votes and earn his way in on votes. Not that I think that he has earned his right to be voted for. I would probably, if I got 9 votes.
I think you can vote up like it's 5 times a day. So you could do your vote, and then you vote 5 consecutive times, and then you're up for the day, and then you can keep going. And then you got to wait till the next day to submit another ballot.
But here's the thing: if I'm voting, I think Pete Crow Armstrong deserves to be the number 1 outfielder right now. If you look at, if nothing more, his batting stats make him the best player right now. Kyle Tucker, I don't know that he's the number 2, but he's at least in the top 5. Hernandez would be in the top 5. Soto, I think, is right. Yeah, I think that the outfield is correct. I would not vote for Happ myself. He's not proven that he deserves a spot there
as a starter.
Right.
I don't think he's had the type of season to make him an all-star, let alone being in the conversation to be a starter in the game. But Crow Armstrong and Tucker have, for me, Suzuki, I think, should be in the conversation to be a starter in the All-Star game. Is there in any planet is he going to, with the votes being done nationally, not just with the vote being done worldwide, not let alone nationally. Is he going to get enough votes to overtake Shohei Ohtani? No, but he should. With the season he's having, leading, I think he's darn near leading the league in RBIs. I think, or in the top 5. He'll probably make the team.
Yep.
But if I'm being realistic and saying who's actually having the type of year to where they should be on the All-Star team, it's probably Suzuki, Pete Crow Armstrong, and Kyle Tucker.
And I think Pete Crow could be DH or an outfielder, and I think he easily deserves that on either of those spots. So
yeah, probably not over Suzuki. Probably not over Ohtani. I'm not the biggest Ohtani fan, but I mean, you can't argue with the talent and the offensive stats that he puts up, even as limited as he's starting to get back into pitching.
Yep. Okay, and College World Series is going on. Arkansas's Gage Wood pitched his third no-hitter. He pitched the third no-hitter in men's College World Series history. Oh, wow. And on top of it, he was one bad pitch away from having a perfect game. The only mark against him was that he hit a batter, and it wasn't, it
was questionable.
It was questionable. But if you are the batter, it hit the guy on his back foot. If you're the batter, your job is to get on base. I don't care. Sometimes in a situation like that, you getting one guy on base can turn the tides. All of a sudden, a pitcher gets slightly thrown off of his routine he's been doing for the last 20 guys.
In that situation, that could have been the difference from taking him out of a normal windup to putting him in the stretch. And maybe that's the key.
Yeah.
Or maybe a stolen base could put a guy on second, and that changes. That could be a hit by pitch, whether he didn't do his job of getting out of the way or slightly leaning in. That could be be, as Pat Hughes likes to say, a turning point of the game.
Yeah, I will never blame somebody for taking a hit by pitch. I will never blame someone for that. So, but
Arkansas did not make it to the finals though, as they were eliminated by LSU, setting up a College World Series final, which starts this afternoon between the LSU Tigers and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
I'd love to see the Coastal Carolina win it, but I think it's going to probably be LSU.
Yeah. LSU is going for back-to-back titles, while Coastal Carolina is currently on a 26-game winning streak going into the finals.
Okay. Speaking of playoffs, you like that one? We got to go into the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals. One of these has been decided, but let's get to basketball first. Series is tied at 3 games apiece. Game 7 tomorrow night at 6 o'clock or at 7 o'clock in OKC.
Yeah, one of those. You know what? I might try to watch this game.
Yeah,
I might try.
It's Game 7.
It's a Game 7. It's a Game 7 in OKC. Should be a good game. I honestly have not watched any NBA Finals, but I mean, seeing the headlines and kind of skimming over what happened in the game, seems like it's been a really back and forth series. So I'm hoping the Thunder win, but even I wouldn't be upset if the Pacers won either. It's the first time either team will be raising a banner up to the rafters, regardless of who wins, and both are kind of really young and upcoming teams, so I don't think either one of them are going to be. This probably won't be the last time that those 4 players will be in the finals, competing for a title together.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it. I think it'll be, both these teams are great, and he's still nerve-wracking. Halliburton had a hamstring or a calf strain, and those are the types of injuries that a guy never fully recovers from. If he comes back too early or does any more damage to it, very easily could put you where you end up never coming back from that. So you need him to play, but how much can you let him play? And maybe this is his Jordan with the broken broken leg or broken foot.
Jordan was like the flu game.
No.
I don't think he ever had a game where he had a broken foot and still played. Okay. Or at least not at NBA Finals or a prominent playoff game, I don't think.
In his second NBA season, Michael Jordan suffered a broken foot during a game against Golden State Warriors on the 29th of '85. He fractured one of his bones in the middle of his foot, which normally has poor blood supply to it, so it generally heals slower. Michael Jordan missed 64 games due to the injury. Upon his return, he played under strict minute restrictions, which he resisted. Despite the injury, Jordan scored 63 points against the Celtics in Game 2 of the '86 playoffs.
Okay.
So, yes, he did break his foot going into the '86 playoffs, and in returning, he still scored 63 in Game 2. So, that's the game I was talking about.
Okay, fair enough. Good looking up, Mike. All right, so I'm hoping to maybe I'll carve out some time to watch the game.
I'm gonna text you tomorrow and be like, "You watching this game?" If I'm watching, I will.
if you're watching, yeah. All right, Stanley Cup Finals, Mike. It was the Oilers and the Panthers. Mike, this was the matchup that you predicted at the very beginning of the season, with the Oilers winning it all. Before the Stanley Cup Finals started, you said, "I'm going to stick with it." Mike, the Panthers won 4-2, hoisting the cup for their second year in a row. Yeah, so the Stanley Cup will be staying in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
By the way, Game 7 tomorrow, 7 p.m., ABC.
ABC for the Pacers Thunder game.
Yep. Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that. I really wanted it to go to Canada. But in the way too early gambling line, do you know who the number one top choice for winning the Stanley Cup next year is?
Is it Edmonton?
It's Edmonton.
Yeah, but at this point, I mean, I think you got to pick the Panthers, though, if you're going really early, just to see a three-peat for a Stanley Cup.
If they get so, here's the deal, and I wouldn't even I think we're both in agreement. They at minimum have to win one more game to be considered a dynasty, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to win at least 3 series, 3 championships,
3 cups in a short time window, like you had like the Red Wings, those Red Wing teams in the '90s.
Yep.
The Blackhawks in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, winning 3 cups. The Penguins, all those cup teams with Crosby and.
Yep. No, totally agree. So, no dynasty talk yet. If they win next year, we'll talk about it. Okay, with that, Rich, let's get into the NBA or the NFL schedule for the Chicago Bears. I just sent you a link to our image in your thing. I don't know if you got it.
I got it.
Okay. Week 1, Monday Night Football. We talked about it last week. We're both excited about it. Bears start prime time against the Vikings. I'm excited for this game.
Yeah, me too. I don't think there's going to be many thumbs down. Not going to waste my time watching this game because it's the Bears.
Yeah,
because it's the Bears. But I mean, important matchup. Yeah, hopefully you can start the year off right with a win. Week 2, you got to go to Detroit for an afternoon game.
That's going to be a rough one. That's going to be... No, that's a noon game.
Okay.
It's a noon game.
I'm sorry. Where I'm at, it shows East. Yeah, noon game. So you get a noon window with the Lions.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough game.
Tough game, though. Yeah. Week 3 is the Cowboys. That's a 3:25 game, as well as Week 4 against the Raiders. By the way, so Tony lives out there, my brother. Guess how much tickets are if we wanted to go to that game? Nosebleeds.
$500-$600. How much?
$4,000.
Oof.
Yeah, I ain't going to that game. Then they get an early bye. Are you a fan of early buys?
I am not. I'm not a fan of early buys. I'd rather have a buy as late as I could. But at least with Week 5, in the odd event that you have an injury, at least if anything, if you go on a heater and you get hot, you don't have that bye week to have. At least if they get hot, at least you have an early bye week to where you don't have that winning streak sitting idle for a week because you're on a bye.
Yeah.
So Week 6, they go out to Landover, Maryland to face the Washington Commanders. So I think coming off of the bye, you kind of have a winnable, but it's a game that could go either way.
Right.
Depending on how the Commanders are doing.
And we're not giving you whether or not we think they're going to win these games intentionally, because that's for a later date when we actually understand and know what the team looks like. But right now, man, that could be a tough game. I'm not super hyped about it being out there. It is another Monday night game. 2 Monday night games so far, or 2 primetime games so far for the
early going.
Yeah, in the early weeks. Week 7, the Saints come to town. That
could be a good right the ship type of game.
Or it could be a trap game.
Yeah.
You just got done with a really tough opponent. You got this opponent that's and then you're looking ahead.
Let's say you're 500 or a 1 game below, either a game above or a game below 500.
Okay.
These first six weeks.
Yep.
That New Orleans game could either be a turning point game because hey, now we're 2 games above 500 with the win against the Saints, or man, we're below 500. Now we're 2 games below 500, and you got 2 really big games in Week 9, 8, and 9 with at Baltimore and at Cincinnati.
And that's why I think this is the ultimate trap game for the Bears. I don't think Week 10 against the Giants as much of a trap game, because you're coming off of a tough game. You're looking forward to a really tough game with 2 really tough games.
So that Giants game could get you, all right, let's get back on track. If you split those 2 games in Cincy and Baltimore, or lose them both, Week 10 against the Giants could be where you get back on track.
Yep, get back on track, face the Giants. That might be the week that we go to, well, actually, no, the Week 5 game might be a perfect game. But that would be, the Giants game might be a game that I might skip.
We might skip the Giants game, depending on what the record is.
Skip the Giants game, go to the pumpkin patch.
Yeah. I could see the Giants game being one that I skip for.
Wait, I guess probably not. That's after.
That's after.
Yeah,
so before Halloween, so the Saints game could be a game that you skip to go out to the pumpkin patch.
Yep.
Or
the orchard or whatever.
Or the orchard. But yeah, the Baltimore and Cincy games look really good. I could see myself skipping that Giants game depending on where they're at. They're at record-wise as well. Week 11, you get back in the division, and you get the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. That'll be a nice, fun game to watch. Excited about that game. So, again, that one, it's a division rival. You never know what you're going to get from your division rival. That always makes it tough. Even if they're having a down year, they like to show up to try to play against you in that particular one.
Yeah.
Then the week after, your least favorite team in the league comes to town.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
They'll bring their terrible towels for you to wipe your butt with if you want. I think that's the only thing you would use one of those for, right?
The Pittsburgh game, I think, could almost go either way. A Mike Tomlin team is well coached.
Yeah.
And this is either going to be a vintage Aaron Rodgers game that he has circled on his calendar so he can let his ego talk saying that I still own you. Or Aaron Rodgers is going to be injured because he's 41 years old, still playing the game, even though he probably should be retired by now. So it's either going to be a game where I think Bears fans want to see him get a win over Aaron Rodgers, and maybe this be the game to make him really think, all right, maybe I should be hanging up after this year, regardless of how well this season goes.
I will equate this, and I don't know if you remember this stat, but there is only one game in history, one game and one game only, that Brett Favre ever got shut out in. And it was against the Chicago Bears right before he retired. I'd love to see it again.
All right, Black Friday, Mike. The team gets a spotlight game against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly.
That's gonna be a rough game in general. It's Black Friday, so it could have lots of eyes. It could have no eyes. But even on top of it, it's the only game of the day, and it's against Philly, in Philly.
Mm-hmm. That could be a tough team, especially if the Eagles don't have that Super Bowl hangover type of season, which, looking at their roster, that's still a really good roster.
Yeah. So then,
week 14.
Week 14, first time we see the Green Bay Packers in the season. Who knows what they're going to look like? But, yeah, we'll see them come to town and deal with it then. Week 15, no, that's away. That's in Green Bay. That's going to be a fun.
Yeah.
But, wow. I just realized that. 2 December games, one in Wrigley, or one in Green Bay, and then they come down the Christmas week.
That's a to be determined. So that could get flexed into a primetime game in Chicago in Week 16. Week 15, Mike, they get the Cleveland Browns. You don't know who their quarterback could be. That team could be riddled with injuries.
Yep.
So no matter how Week 14 goes, 15 could be a get-right game to go into Week 16. Could be a primetime game. Could be a normal scheduled game against the Green Bay Packers.
Either way, it's going to be cold. That's what I'm saying. Like 3 games that are going to be in the outdoor elements in frigid either Chicago or Green Bay. These could be some terrible games to watch in person, but great games to watch on TV. Then they gave a Sunday night game in San Francisco. Get a little warm, get some sun therapy, or get some nighttime action in. Sunday night football. And then they finished the season against a division rival in the Lions. I would argue the scariest team in the division right now, aside from the Bears.
Week 18 is a good week to play them because if they do just as well as they did last year, Week 18, they could have their playoff spot locked up. And the hard part is they could start rotating out their starters to rest them for the playoff game. But at the same time, they could be playing for that number 1 seed, and they could be trying to get that bye or home field advantage. So they could be playing everybody.
Or they're playing for, like, this could be, and again, I'm speculating 100%. I haven't given assigned a win-loss on either of these or for the Lions. But this could be a game for the division lead.
It could be. Or it could be that you're right. It could either be that the Lions have nothing to play for and they rest their starters because they have their playoff seeding isn't going to be impacted by a win or a loss. The number 1 overall seed isn't going to be impacted by a win or a loss.
Or It could
They're
be
playing for a division,
for
right?
the division
They're playing
against
for a seed,
the
and they need
Bears.
to win the game.
Whoever wins the division, and the other one goes in the wild card. Potentially. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying there is a distinct possibility. Both of these teams look really good this year.
All right. So, Mike, not going over how they're going to get to this win total because that's the topic for August 8th through 9th. Ballpark figure, Mike, right now, BetMGM has the Bears over-under at 8.5 wins.
Oh, I think you take the over. I think they're begging you to take the over on that, but I think the over wins. I don't know how you take the under on that, personally, but...
Yeah, I think I would take the over as well. So, Mike, our NFL season preview. Hopefully, unless something happens, like a big injury, maybe a trade, more than likely the month of July, we'll put the NFL back on the back burner.
Yep.
Unless
there's some
big injury
something
happens.
pops up.
So, August 8th and 9th, we're going to do the Bears, a full Bears win or loss prediction. So we can see going week to week, will they get over that 8.5 wins? Yeah. August 15th or 16th, we're going to give you our division and wild card predictions. August 22 and 23, fantasy football, where we give you our top a six-pack of players that we like at each position.
The 29th and 30th of August, we're going to give you our Super Bowl prediction as well as our first Thursday night football game of the week and the Brazil game.
Yep. And then when we come back after Labor Day weekend, the 5th and the 6th, we will be giving you our regular NFL coverage.
Lock of the week.
Giving you
Bears.
a lock of the week.
Lock of the week, upset of the week, and the Bears, as well as the Thursday night football prediction. With that, Rich, do you have any shout-outs for the week?
No, I do not have any shout-outs.
My mother-in-law had her birthday. She turned 29 again. Or at least that's what I'm saying here. Anyway, with that, Rich, let's go ahead and... wait, I said it at the beginning. You get to say it now.
Well, before we roll the outro, Mike, we got to give folks a reminder that no matter where you found our podcast from, whether on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform, we're at both places. So if you're listening to us in podcast land and want to see the live recordings where you can comment or give a reaction to the podcast, you can find those over on YouTube. If you're listening to us, if you found our show here on YouTube, and just want the audio version, and make sure to find us, search for Balls and Sticks wherever you download and listen to all your other favorite podcasts. And you can also find the weekly polls over at Fans of Balls and Sticks over on Facebook. Mike, with all that out of the way, go ahead and roll that outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.